What's up, everyone? This is a new podcast project that we're going to do, and it's called Tabletop Galaxy. And what it is we got several players, several GMs, and several folks working together, and we're going to be using the Star Wars Roleplaying game by Fantasy Flight Games. And instead of doing one long campaign, we're actually going to be much more modular, where we rotate through a couple of different GMs and do like flashback episodes and have guest stars and just explore all kinds of stories that take place in the Star Wars galaxy. So that guy is going to be GMing half of our first arc, and I say half because he's going to tell you why I say half.
Yeah, so I'm Steven. I'm going to be the GM for this first arc for this group. So we're running two groups concurrently together. The other GM is Rob B. Rollin on Twitter, or Rolling. There's a G at the end. It's not Rollin. It probably is now. Sorry, I ramble too much. You're welcome for this intro too. You guys have never sat down and recorded with me, but this is pretty normal.
Shout out to the editors.
Yeah. So this first arc, we're calling it Broken Space. Not going to tell you why because secrets and stuff. But there are two groups that are going to be kind of running storylines parallel to one another, that are working for different operatives. And to give you a little more background, as Bounty Hunter said, we're using the Fantasy Flight Star Wars RPG rules. Specifically, we're doing the Edge of the Empire stuff. So the fringes of the galaxy. I'm holding this sharp thing for no reason. Stab myself in the face. Be a great first show. Fringes of the galaxy, kind of the black market, the Hutts, the Black Sun, like all the criminal organizations. That's the world that we're exploring in Star Wars, which I'm really excited about. So we're doing a session 0 right now just to kind of get our characters established. We're all pretty stinking new to the system. I've GM'd the beginner box, and I've played one shot, actually with Nick and Bounty Hunter. I don't know, what's the rest of y'all's experience? Let's backtrack for a second. Let's introduce each other, ourselves.
No, let's introduce each other.
Yeah, everyone pick somebody else. Okay. I'm introducing.
So that's Gregory. And, I found him on Twitter, and I started strong arming him into some of my one shots because I was doing these one shots where I just grabbed 5 random Twitter people. And after a couple of one shots, I was like, dude, you're pretty awesome and we should play in some stuff together. So I continued to strong arm him into my D&D Essentials Kit game. And from there led into like some more Genesis one shots and other great stuff. And he's my favorite hype man. The amount of excitement that Gregory puts out is just why I had to have him on this show. And he's doing this cool thing right now. It's called D&D Daily, where every day he has a RPG related vlog, and 3 to 10 minute vlog where he picks a topic and just talks about something in the tabletop hobby, and it's really awesome, and you should check him out. All right.
Wow.
Somebody introduce somebody else now.
I do want to say that by strong arming me, he means like beating me off with a stick as I begged him for, let's play another game, dude.
He wouldn't even let me finish the last game before this one tried to get started.
Pretty much. Thank you for that awesome intro.
Yeah, you have to introduce Nick now, who you've met for 16 minutes.
Oh boy.
Boom.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Oh, that means that I get to introduce Seal.
I
Yay.
could introduce Nif. That would be a little easier. But that's okay. I can do Nick. This will work because I've seen Nick play and I like Nick's style. Nick brings a really amazing character to every game that I've seen, and he is part of the initiative roll crew or roll initiative, depending on which platform you're on, which is confusing. So you have to straighten us out with that, Nick. But they are an amazing group that does incredible games, actual play games, and some really fantastic videos on YouTube, especially specifically around role-playing and creating interesting characters, monsters, and so forth. and I love everything they are doing. And I'm thrilled that Nick is going to be our muscle for this game because I think he nails that character. And I'm excited to see what he brings to this table. So, but you do need to clarify for us. How do we know where to find you, Nick?
Most of the time, it's going to be Roll Initiative, unless you're on Twitter, and then it's at Initiative Roll, I believe, because Roll Initiative was already taken, as I'm sure most content creators understand, as the OneCritWonder TV can attest to.
There's a space puppy behind you.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Wandering around the ship already.
You need to put a green vest so just the head floats around behind you.
Oh, yeah, he's a big dog.
By the way,
dang.
is that check better?
Yeah, you're good.
Cool.
All right, Nefer.
Wait, who am I introducing?
Not me, and not Greg.
You can't introduce
I
yourself,
can't introduce,
so you
so
have
I'm introducing
two
Seal.
people
Okay.
to pick from.
All right. So Seal is OneCritWonder everywhere except for Twitch, which we already talked about. He's awesomely active on Twitter and puts a bunch of these cool games together. And he's done D&D, and he's done Genesis, and he's done a bunch of different things. And he's almost done doing Dragons of Icepire Peak. He's got like one more episode, hopefully. And he also does like a bunch of really good tabletop RPG puns all the time. And he also says sarcasm is strong. And yeah.
I'm kind of a jerk if I weren't so witty and funny. That's me.
He's pretty super cool. And he put all this together and he's hosting, so he's awesome.
Hashtag Untitled
Untitled.
Boom.
All right, now Nick has
Right.
to introduce Niffer.
Yep.
Good luck.
So we have Niffer at NifferNiff. She is all around the internet. You can find her everywhere, doing all kinds of, as she likes to say, and I quote, creeping on other people's fun stuff. But she has lots of fun stuff of her own. All the artwork for our characters that you see today was done by the Niff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's super fun. I'm really excited to get to play with her and see where this Space Kitchen and Space Puppy lead. Both her idea.
Yeah. I'm responsible for most non-storyline shenanigans, I think.
Plot twist. The most important storyline is the kitchen and the puppy.
Oh no!
I knew it.
We wrote the space puppy do in the space kitchen while we weren't looking.
Yeah, you guys are
The
gonna
Space
be
Puppy's the chef.
you guys are gonna be searching the galaxy for something, and then all of a sudden it's gonna be Space Puppy.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Our version of a shopping episode is just a puppy episode.
I can dig it.
No complaints.
You
Yeah,
have
so
to
that's who
introduce
we are.
yourself.
Doing what?
You got to introduce yourself.
I'm Steven. I do
Oh,
stuff.
nobody introduced him.
That's okay. I do stuff on the internet.
Period.
So do
No,
the rest of us and basically anybody watching this. So
I have an
Okay.
idea. How about each
I-
one of us says one thing about Steve that we know?
Oh no.
That might be cool. I'll go first.
go.
Steven is an amazing DM, and you can find him at Not Quite Heroes podcast. It is unbelievably fun. Everyone on that cast is incredible, and he is running a phenomenal game. That's how I found out about this wonderful person.
They're doing this really cool, like, community built world podcast thing that I learned about when I dragged him and his whole crew on my Roll High Don't Die interview show, and got to learn about how he went through the steps to set up the crew that he has right now and the world that they're playing in, and it was very interesting.
He also just released something on DM's Guild for the Bard College of Nightmares homebrew thing, so that's pretty cool. Everyone should go check this out because it's awesome.
It's spooky.
It's spooky.
You hit
It's really
copper?
good.
Yeah, I hit copper in like 24 hours, which was cool. and kind of really weird. So
I should do that whole like writing some of my ideas down.
yeah, so I'm going to say this about that. I'm really proud of it. I got so much help from Robbie Rowland, who's over there on the chat. Lots of help from him, and Emily, who's on the podcast on Not Quite Heroes, who plays Firefly, and Drop the Die, or Drop. I never know if it's Drop the Die or Drop the Dice, even though he was a guest on our show for like 4 episodes.
Drop the die.
Drop the Die. Sorry, JB, you're probably not watching, so it's fine.
I watched once and I got it. Come on, you can do this.
I have a lot of talents, but remembering anything is not one of them.
So you're going to forget that you didn't give me 3 space puppies real soon?
I think I already did give you 3 space puppies.
Oh yeah.
Canon. He said it. It's canon.
I recorded it. It's
But yeah, if you want to find anything,
All of our credits are going to go to dog food.
Mhm.
if you get enough space puppies, you don't need dog food.
Damn.
that got dark.
much like your garage.
I know, isn't it cool? I feel like I look really, when we were playing Call of Cthulhu and I had this lighting and it was perfect. Anyways, so Star Wars, Broken Space.
Wait, Nick has to say one thing.
Nick has to say one thing.
Damn. Well, I played a game. Steven played in that one shot with us, and has a really awesome energy. And I think you guys are really gonna like him as GM. And I'm pumped to see what he does. Really.
Awesome. I'm excited. This is a really, really fun group. We've been online now for like 50 minutes or something like that. Time's getting away, but we've mostly been laughing, and so that's a good sign for a group. So we had that little outline that we wrote somewhere.
We had structure once.
Yeah, structures.
Y'all ignored all of my hard work.
You know what? You are the glue that keeps us together.
You are
So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Let's check off the boxes.
Yeah, I found the list. So the first thing was explain what our goals with the podcast was, and I think we nailed that, and we know who we are. And some people out
Maybe
there,
we could get a little more specific, like saying that we are going to play our sessions every other week, and the group 2 is going to also do every other, or they might do every week.
Yeah, I think
They're doing every week.
They're doing every week, but they're doing shorter sessions.
Cool.
Just because of how Rob and mine schedules work out.
Perfect.
And then there are Tuesday nights. Does that sound right?
Tuesday nights at 9 CDT until that changes to CST. 2-hour sessions every week, and we are at 3-hour sessions every other week.
And then we're also going to intersperse that with an amazing talk show that is going to be headed by none other than Niffer.
Yep.
Over there, right?
Yeah.
No, she's not.
She's
That's
over there.
me.
I don't know.
She's over there.
That's what I'm trying to point across. Is it that way or that way? I got to figure this out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Anyway, so we're going to do a talk show where we're going to like recap the sessions, talk tactics, talk mechanics, and then just generally geek out about Star Wars.
Because we are, like he said, kind of new to this system. And so if you're new to this system, you will see us going, hey, I would like to run to take cover. And in a timeout, let's talk about how cover works while we're playing. But we're also going to do things where in the talk show, we say, hey, remember in the last episode where somebody decided they wanted to, fly the ship through that super narrow canyon, and we got into flying through terrain and that kind of stuff. Well, let's go more in depth on that. And so we'll talk about that a little bit, discuss the recap from the episode of why certain things were happening, and then maybe possibly do like training scenarios where it's like, okay, you're all in a ship and you're flying through the Death Star trench. Let's talk about the different mechanics of that. So
yeah, because like we said, we're all pretty new to the system, and I think like the more I've dug into the system and started going through the core rule book and some of the expansions and stuff, it's really cool. The mechanics are really fun. It's very narrative in nature, but we are new and it doesn't get as much publicity as something like D&D, where
you can also do things like spin an entire campaign on a planet's surface and not really touch on space combat rules and stuff. So you can be on session 30 and then suddenly have a bunch of rules that no one's really messed with before. And you're like, why didn't the pilot read how to drive the ship? I don't know, because y'all made me shoot guys for 40 episodes before you let me fly the ship.
See, for not having played this, that sounds really deeply personal. Just gonna say.
I'm hinting very slightly at someone who may or may not watch this show, who was in the group that I GM'd for and spent 12 sessions as one of 2 pilots in the group and had a whole side arc where they went and stole another ship. So I was like, oh no, the group has 2 ships. This is going to be like easy mode for them. They have twice as many ships as the module is built for. But then never spent any of the time between sessions to spend XP and like get any actual piloting skills. And then he bounced it off every jagged piece of metal on Raxus Prime. Left the ship with one whole point left, like it had 1 hit point before the ship blew up. Parked it, and then they left it there because when it come time to leave the planet, they didn't want to be in the smoking wreckage that was the ship because they didn't have time to fix it.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so the pilot didn't read any of the piloting parts of the book and then proceeded to bounce a YT-2400 off of everything they could find.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a little bit of a GM thing real quick and say, those are our kind of goals for the show as a whole. I do want to ask you for do you all have specific goals for your characters, for what you want these sessions to be like, and that sort of stuff, just to kind of hash out that, because my biggest goal as a GM is always that the players that I'm playing with, whether it's for a show or just at home, are engaged in having fun. So the things that get you excited about this game are important to me. The things that if you go like, if we run into this stuff, it's just going to bum me out. Like I'm not into whether it's a mechanic, like I'm better at doing this in D&D because I played a lot more D&D, but like if someone's like, man, if we get stuck in like a 3-session dungeon crawl, like I'm out. Like I'm not going to be engaged. I'm not a part of that. So that stuff's really important to me. So I just want to throw that out to you all and kind of hear your thoughts on that.
Anyone want to go first?
I mean, I think if we can find a 3-session dungeon crawl in this setting, I'd be impressed, but
You would
I'm
be
here for
surprised.
There's lots of ruins in Star Wars.
True. You can
true.
also end up on some really good backwater jungle planets and whatever. Things I'm looking for. I dig the like shady underbelly, edge of the empire kind of stuff, which is why I so much enjoy this specific piece of the system, since the system spans all of Star Wars. As much as I like Star Wars, I care much more for the bounty hunters and smugglers, and like I like Firefly, like the TV show Firefly. I like those kind of stories of this is us and our ship and we're just trying to make it to the next point. And yeah, we're not quite heroes. We're not quite bad guys, but whatever it takes to keep the boat in the air and flying and get us to our next mission, and the way that obligation can kind of play into that and stuff. So as long as we're exploring that kind of part of Star Wars, I'll always be happy. And that's why, like the Solo movie, I dug in the Solo movie that they started introducing Crimson Dawn and the Pike Syndicate and all these great things about the Star Wars galaxy, when the movies usually only follow the Skywalker family and focus on the black, white, or gray aspect of space wizards, when there's all this cool stuff that no one ever talks about, and Disney went and deleted the EU and all that sweet backstory stuff. So yeah, fringe survival stories is my jam, but I'll be happy no matter what we do.
Yeah, and along lines with that too is that I've sort of designed Zarko as a survivalist. We were just hanging out like a week ago, and I was going through the equipment list to sort of get prepped and ready, and I sort of realized as I'm putting this together, I'm like, wow, this is weird. This guy seems like he's a survivalist, like a doomsday prepper almost kind of feel. So, and with his his idea of scouting, obviously that sort of ties into what I like in games, I think. So I think pretty similar to what Bounty Hunter just said is like, I would love to do the sort of somewhat survival against all odds kind of feel. Firefly is a perfect way to say it, of like, we're just out here in our tiny little ship just trying to get by and make the next job happen. That theme would definitely appeal to me.
Yeah, sort of like small fish in a big pond.
Totally.
Sort of a feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love all of the aspects of this game. So like, I'm just as stoked if we have an entire session of just social stuff. We're just role playing and maybe meeting NPCs. That's just fine with me. And if we have an entire session that's like entirely combat, be it space combat or on the planet or whatever, or in a space station or however it plays out, I love all that. So yeah,
Sweet.
I like a nice mix of like, I'd love to get a little taste of the whole bouquet or the whole banquet.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Nick or Niffer?
I don't know, kind of everything that both of them have said. Like, I also really like just the survivalist aspect of like, we get to be in charge of like, okay, we're gonna go out and make our own plot and stuff. Like, we're not just following, the Skywalkers, the Force, whatever. Like, so I like that we kind of can go where we want there and like have agency to go interact with the world and stuff. So
Shoot, I'm gonna have to change all those Skywalker NPCs I made.
but yeah, I want like 6 more space puppies and maybe another space kitchen, and
Well, you can get whatever you want with enough credits.
it's true. Yeah, so probably that.
So I'm literally just in your what you want section on my notes. I'm literally just writing space puppies.
Deal.
We're cool with that.
I mean, like,
So far, the list just
also-
says Firefly, solo
Space-
movie, space puppy.
but also like actually getting to interact. Like, I really love fun, like unique NPCs and like getting to have really crazy social interactions and like wacky ideas and stuff. But also like getting to see like what we can do with combat is also fun too, because like the dice system in this game is so much more adaptive and so much cooler than D&D, because like in D&D it's like, oh, you pass fail, whereas here it's like, well, we can come up with something creative together for whatever happens.
That's
And
what
I like that.
That's what I'm so excited about the system, is the dice pool and the like kind of
Yeah.
cooperative building out and telling of the story of what the dice pool represents. It's not all on me to be like, this happens or this doesn't happen. It's
I
like,
also
okay.
enjoy that it
Yeah.
really gets player buy-in. Like in D&D, you get a little bit of that. The rogue is always trying to say that there's a telephone pole in the middle of that cow pasture that he can hide behind to have a sneak attack. But like, I feel like this system much more facilitates like, can I get a boost die? I'll hold out my hands and try to push them up so they get a boost die on their climb. Or no, my shot may have missed, but I want it to distract them so bad that they turn over here and look, and then Kane runs into the group and throws a grenade.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So that's what I'm looking forward to, is the dice setting and stuff too. So
Yeah, so I definitely dig the survival aspect too as well. But as the combat heavy person, I would also like some combat somewhere.
yes.
As all of my skills will be tailored to shooting people.
I mean, it's Star Wars. You can't not shoot stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, in the last game system that I played like this, I literally stared at somebody until they bled. So like, you can make combat out of anything.
Noted.
That was awesome.
That's intense.
I was there for it. It was intense.
I think the stuff that Rob and I have been working on will fit really, really well into that to kind of the games you're describing in your hopes. So I'm really excited about that. Is there anything that you're just like please no, like don't do this, don't go there? I just want to throw that out there, and especially from like, is there anything that I could do that would shut you off of role playing and engaging in the story? That's really important to me, to avoid that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Anything that I would have to answer that question with would be like less of an RPG theme and more of like, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Like, don't be weird and creepy to the female of the group. Don't like, those kind of things. Like, let's avoid certain red flag topics.
Be a decent human being. That's
Like,
all.
Keep
Also,
it
don't
light
kill my
and
space
fun.
puppy.
Yeah.
Keep it light and fun. I don't mind like serious moments and stuff like that, but especially depending on how you choose to drop that severity on people, make sure that you have a good read on that person before you're like, your character, the person that they super care about dies, and I didn't like bring it up to you at all, but like your brother's dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awkward. My character's brother already is dead.
Okay, well, suddenly he's alive, and he didn't run that by you. And but yeah, I mean, I leave it at like, don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
Anything else I'll adapt to, and I strongly believe in feedback, both in like my real life like job thing, but also in gaming. Feedback is how you learn. If you are having a good time, tell everyone that you are having a good time. If you are not having a good time, tell people, and they will know that you are not having a good time and can work on adjusting that. So it's less about avoiding everything and more about A, being open to feedback, and B, giving feedback, both from all of the players to the DM, from the players to the other players, and DM to players. So be normal humans and talk to each other.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm on that 100%. Like, I think there's probably like one or two like real hardcore red flag topics that we can, if we stay away from that stuff, then we'll probably have a good time. I'm fine with things getting intense, like life and death, like where, we could have like lots of seriousness and heavy emotion stuff. That's cool, because I think the way I get a read from this group, there'll be enough light-hearted moments in between that kind of thing that, a nice range of like, whoa, this is real deal stuff, and we better think about this. And I mean, I'm going to try to stay in character as much as possible. And I'm okay with being pushed, and made to feel uncomfortable to a point. But yeah, I think like Seal said, as long as it's not like really sinister, dark, nasty stuff, yeah, let's have some fun and see where things go.
Perfect. That's how I feel about gaming in general. I really think it's important to establish those kinds of things very, very early on. And then I will also say, as we're playing, you guys are all welcome at any point to message me, wave at me, do this, any way that if there's something that you are uncomfortable with, I can steer things away and move on from things. And if something comes up that I feel is not appropriate, I will also just move on from that.
Yeah, we could maybe off screen, maybe the 4 or 5 of us can work out a signal or something that way we'll know. Like,
this is why I had Seal make the big oof emoji for me, because then I can just send it to you guys.
I will say
Big
that
yikes.
despite the fact that we are live streaming, the plan is for an edited show, and I'll get better at editing as we go along. But if we wander into a point and need to be like, all right, time out, let's retcon, let's back up before we go into that room, I'll chop recordings and adjust so that the final product, both the audio and the video side, don't necessarily have to have that baby in the background or that time when someone made a "that's what she said" joke.
I believe this
brought us into an awkward.
Puppy.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I just lost track of what I was going to say. So I agree.
Also, stay away from my space puppies, because they're all gonna live.
I'm sure they will.
This might also be a good time to bring up. We had talked about sort of like a rating system on the podcast and on our stream. Did we nail down? We were looking at PG-13, if I remember.
Mhm.
And I was thinking, I've actually put a little bit of thought into that because this is Star Wars and they do use fun language to like basically swear without really swearing. And
Like
I love
criff.
that. And I definitely plan on doing plenty of it. So,
Voodoo.
yeah, for real.
Star Wars swearing, cool.
Yeah.
I'll probably be the one to do it because
I'll give you a run for your money.
I cuss a lot in my job. I'm sorry, but I need to learn how to make that cool beep noise. So if Nick and I cuss, I'll figure
Good
it out.
practice.
We'll do it.
I'll get a nice grab of Niffer looking straight at the camera and just saying "Criff," and I'll edit that over the top.
I'm for that.
Can we-
I think that's absolutely important.
Can
You
we get
need
a few of those now just for editing purposes?
You need to also like do the icon over their mouth, but just have it be like big yikes.
It's gonna be oh no, chibi oh no going.
You could have different symbols based on what the word was. So then people who really care can decipher your system, and then they can really get the full experience.
I like that this is a session 0 and we're not talking about our characters or building the world.
No,
we're just discussing how to edit out the inevitable cussing,
Yeah.
Well, we've got 2 hours. We've got plenty of time.
We got time.
he says, without
But I will
the
say-
screaming baby upstairs.
Fair.
Speaking of characters, I think we should talk about those. So for people listening, why don't you guys? Well, and I don't know if you guys have read each other's brief backgrounds or not.
I have.
'Cause,
Yeah, it's like we all know everything about each
Yeah.
other already.
So why don't y'all introduce your characters, a little bit of their background, where they're coming from, and then we can talk. Then we can start having the conversation of why are you four
A team
together in
You-
space?
Just as a quick aside there, you told us that we've already met each other and are already working together at story start,
Yes.
right? So episode 1, we will already know each other and we can interject things like, oh, well, the reason is because as we were meeting, but we don't have to role play out the you meet in a tavern
Exactly.
bit.
And actually, let me before we do that, I'm going to give the people who are listening a little bit of background for what
Okay.
where and what's kind of the state of the galaxy.
That'll probably help as we describe what our characters are here
Yeah.
for to know why we're here.
So, for timeline, this is just after the first Death Star has gone boom and is no more. We are starting on the planet of Socorro, which, if you are familiar with Star Wars lore, you will know that that's where Lando Calrissian is originally from. It's a outer rim planet. It's very volcanic and deserty, and basically like 3/4 of the planet is just like this giant black wasteland of volcanic ash. What's interesting about Socorro is that its kind of primary function in the galaxy turns into modifying ships illegally. Is their main source of income, and that has created a system where kind of all the major I can't think of the right word.
Like
this-
shipyards?
Factions.
like
yeah.
So like the Hutts, the Black Suns, the Pikes, independent bounty hunters, they all have kind of station here, and there's not an actual set government over the planet. There's kind of a loose alliance, or kind of
Might make
treat.
right.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a loose treaty between all the factions. It's like, hey, we all use this area, but nobody really necessarily runs the planet. But what that does make it good for is it's good for picking up odd jobs. It's good for finding mechanics. It's good for earning a quick buck, doing things that the Empire is not a super big fan of. There are lots of different people who would come in and out of the planet. Even the occasional ambitious Imperial who wants to mod something specific for themselves. Someone who's associated with the rebels might come here looking for some sort of tech to help in the rebellion. There's a whole kind of diverse group of people who will be here, though all of it is black market related. So that's where you're starting. The city you will be in is in my notes.
There's only like 2 that the Wikipedia page talks about.
Yeah, no, it's you're going to be in the capital, which is session 0. On Vikea is how we're going to say that, is the city that you are all starting in. So I'm happy for however you all got there to be either together. You can meet on the planet, you can meet off planet, you can have run some jobs together. That's kind of open to y'all's interpretation. So why don't we start? Whoever I'm on the Zoom chat right now, so I don't know. Whoever's right there starts.
No, we're going to alphabetically because Ellie's character also leads into most
Kinda
of our
start.
other.
Yeah, it makes a lot of
so
sense to
it
start.
makes
You know
the most sense.
That's fair.
2 ways. So
Yeah.
Ellie goes
What up?
first.
Okay, so I am going to be playing Ellie, full name Ono Elikemi. She's a Twi'lek, she's purple, and she's a colonist for like the career type, and then her specialization is politico, which basically means she is from the core planets, and so she's a lot more like interactively talking with people and like kind of more the face of the group. And so kind of the backstory that I have for her is she was part of the Black Sun organization, like this huge interplanetary mafia type thing. And she was kind of like all set up of like, okay, she's going to take over for the family. And then she decided that she didn't want to be part of the mob anymore. So she stole a lot of their property and ran away. And that's how we got our spaceship. So,
And that always ends positively.
you know what? I'm trying not to think about that.
And I'm going to backtrack real quick because I don't know
Yes.
how many of our listeners or viewers have played the Star Wars Fantasy Flight game. So every character has a species, Twi'lek,
Twi'lek.
and a career specialization. So that's kind of the language that Niffer was using there. Twi'lek, just forgot what you are.
Colonist for career, which means like from the inner planets and like started in the inner worlds and made it out to the outer rim somehow for some reason. So yeah.
If you want to think about it in D&D terms for anyone coming from that particular field, your species is like your race. It's the type of person you are. Your career is your class, and then your specialization is your subclass. So she is a colonist, but there are 6 different kinds of colonists, just like there's, multiple kinds of fighters. So there you go.
And the way that I got off of my character started on Coruscant, actually, like the most well-known, biggest city planet in the world.
It is a city
Galaxy.
planet. That is absolutely accurate.
Yeah. So the way that she got off of Coruscant was she essentially said, like, put out a public call of, hey, I have a ship. I can't fly it. Somebody fly me off of this rock. And I think I'm pointing the right way.
Yep.
Okay.
Down here. Oh, no, down here. That's it.
There.
Yeah, so Zarko is so I'm playing Zarko Cruz, and he is a human, and the career is explorer, and the specialty is scout. And so Zarko's story basically is that he was raised by sort of like middle echelon family where they were basically like, mother's a scientist, father's an engineer, they're skilled workers, essentially have a comfortable lifestyle, and all he could ever think about was like the stars and what's out there and get me off of this crazy city world with too many people and species from everywhere. So he also was fascinated by like archaeology and ancient civilizations and this whole, just all this kind of mythology. So he decided to take an apprenticeship or a internship or something like this, and went out with an exploration crew out to the Outer Rim. And when he got out to the Outer Rim, he studied everything he could. He learned everything he could. In particular, he learned how to like be that guy who like drove the forklift and the piloted the ship or whatever needed to be done. He would put his hands on it if he could. Tried to learn from everybody. And when that ended, they brought him back to Coruscant, and he was like, miserable, like, what the hell am I doing back here? I can't stand this place. I need to get off of this rock. And well, it's not even a rock. Get off of this, giant metal sphere of people. And then saw this ad that said, hey, I need a pilot. And so he jumped at the opportunity and met up with Ellie and basically was like, hey, I can fly your ship. Let's go. And so I sort of figured out this. He's kind of like a survivalist. So I had it in my mind, like, yeah, you know what? He's ready for anything. So he literally like had a go bag for just such an occasion. Like on a drop of a hat, he was ready to leave. And so he literally picked up his backpack. He probably responded to her ad and said like, yeah, I'll be there in like 5 minutes and we can go. And so grabbed his stuff, went, met her, and they left the planet. Then he found out about what he got into. And it's like, oh, great. So
it's like that GIF where they
made a mistake.
It's that GIF where they open the trunk of the car and just like a billion space puppies pull out.
Yeah, that's
it.
The classic space puppies GIF.
So kind of wrong place, wrong time, sort of. But
this is what happens when you
he's there
take
for
jobs off of space Craigslist.
exactly.
That's exactly what it was.
And so this is kind of going to tie into one of the discussions we have to have tonight about our ship, because we had sort of toyed with the idea that the ship that she didn't really know what she was doing, maybe when she was picking a ship, or went into Dad's like collection of old spaceships or something. And when we got on it, we're like, this thing's a wreck. We need a mechanic. And so probably then found, I think the idea is that maybe I had some connection. We haven't worked out the details, but I definitely know V as a mechanic out in the Outer Rim. So I'm like,
let's work out those details.
I know a guy. Yeah. So
I know a guy.
Yeah.
As far as a previous backstory between Vosk and Zarko, I am cool with that. I am also cool with you literally arriving on planet and needing to find someone, because who I am playing is Vosk. Vosk is a Duros. They're the green alien guys with no noses and ears and stuff. The species as a whole, though, they're the people who first did hyperspace travel in the Star Wars universe. Like, they're the ones that brought that technology to the galaxy. And
That's
so,
a fun fact I didn't know.
yeah,
Mhm.
they're kind of like natural born pilots, and they have that like look to the stars wanderlust about them. And he has the same thing. He's a native of their homeworld, Duros. And I'm still working out some of the kinks. I had a story back when he was originally a human, but then everyone was playing humans, and I was like, oh, I'll be a cool alien guy. So I changed it, and now I was going to join the Empire. It doesn't really work because the Empire tends to be very xenophobic and not want alien officers. So I'm gonna tweak that slightly. But what I got so far is Vosk was on the Duros homeworld, and he wanted to get out and explore, and he thought a great way to do that would be to become like a real pilot. And I don't want to like cheese too much on the Han Solo kindness of it. But he headed out to the Arcanus sector, which is kind of near where we're at. And there's a lot of piloting schools and stuff out in that area. And that life didn't work for him. Whether he thought he could join the Empire and didn't realize, or whether there was another non-Empire. This girl.
Niffer's dead.
Yeah.
Hi, sorry, I was coughing and figured you didn't want to hear it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
we all did.
Sorry.
Whether it's
the effort to conceal it was noted.
I tried.
Whether I do the Empire or like a private organization or what, the plan is I was going to work for someone and like learn to pilot and stuff like that, and it didn't work out. So instead, I took my knowledge of ships and started kind of working on them and found that I like that much better. Yeah, I can fly. It's a thing I can do, but I like the actual nuts and bolts working with ships, and I would like to own my own ship someday. And to that end, kind of found myself working for a Hutt cartel. Not directly like for a Hutt. I wasn't, directly hired by Jabba the Hutt, but it's a crime family, and somebody kind of crossed my path at some point, and I started working with them. And next thing you know, like they provided the funds for me to get like actual schooling, and then the funds if I take more obligation. We'll get into that when we talk obligation, but they basically gave me training, like real training, instead of like whatever space YouTube videos I could find. And so now I find myself indebted to a Hutt cartel, and not something I'm extremely against. Like I'm not on the run from Black Sun level of like obligation, but
Wow,
I
feeling called out.
definitely owe some people. And so I feel like when y'all showed up with your busted ship, whether it's just old or actually busted, hey, a chance to make money and pay off that debt that I have is what ropes me into this thing. And we'll get more into that when I talk obligation. But that's who I am. I didn't do all the things. I am a Duros species technician career, mechanic specialization.
Nice.
I can kind of fly. I can kind of activate computers. I can kind of work on ships.
You can definitely use duct tape.
I can point a blaster towards people.
Better than me.
Well, I could probably help you with that.
And that's why we found you.
So I'm playing Kane Mcallister. He's a human hired gun career with a mercenary soldier specialty. Kane was born on Corellia to a pretty standard military family. He was an only child and kind of grew up with this overbearing father. He ended up joining the Empire and at pretty early at the age of 18. And eventually worked his way up into a command. And he was actually on the Death Star when it did its test run on Jeddah, and seeing the horror that the Empire could cause and their ability to just devastate a planet. He decided to flee. He decided to flee the Empire, so he stole plans for their next mission to warn the rebels before the Empire got to them. But before he left that Death Star that day, he sent a message to his dad. And the message said, "I'm sorry." And then he stole a ship and flew away. And he flew to the rebels, who immediately didn't trust him. But he managed to convince them and get them out before the Empire showed up to destroy them. And he worked for the Rebel Alliance. He was actually leading a Black Ops mission. And in that mission, they appear to be betrayed. And everyone except Kane is murdered. And he manages to escape with his life, but is warned by one of his old friends in the Rebel Alliance on the way back. And so he manages to not go back to the base and evade capture. And now he flies around the galaxy running from the Empire and the Rebels, trying to clear his name so that he can go back to working for the Rebel Alliance. And now joining the crew, I guess I'm also on the run from Black Sun. So there's that.
Maybe.
That's just, yeah. That's a perk of the job.
We got 3 people that Black Sun hates. A guy who somehow pissed off both the Rebels and the Alliance. Somebody who's working up a sizable bill with Jabba the Hutt. Cool. And space puppy dog food we need to buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, which that'll lead into the obligation conversation, which I didn't even think about how fun of a rhyme that is. So that's nice. So one of the things that I love about the system is obligation, because it's a game mechanic that is designed to push character backstories and narrative and storytelling, which is really, really cool. So the way it kind of works, actually, you know what? So you know how to do that. You know the system better than I do, which is always good when you're DMing. Why don't you give the more knowledgeable explanation of how? Nope, he's leaving. He doesn't like the idea.
Oh, I thought he was just. I thought
he was like, nope, I'm out.
I thought he was going to post that YouTube video again.
It's a great YouTube video and you should watch it. I've actually
It
been
is.
meaning to make my own YouTube video, which is why I have like the script to my YouTube videos. So since you're going to make me explain it, I was just going to go, well, here's this video that I've been too busy with baby and school to actually explain it.
In my infinite GM knowledge, I knew that you were prepared.
I literally have, including page references. Obligation is one of the like group rules. You use it for character building, but it helps kind of tie the group together, and the group interacts with it each session, because each third of this role-playing system has its own rule. So Edge of the Empire has obligation, Age of Rebellion has duty, and then Force and Destiny has morality. Obligation specifically is some kind of debt or favor or something that you're tied to in the galaxy. So you could owe somebody money, you could owe somebody a favor, or maybe you just have this very strict set of codes that you're obligated to, like you're part of a military organization or something. Like think of it like a paladin oath almost. And each obligation, it consists of two parts. It has the name and narrative, like story part, but it also has a mechanical, numerical value to it. So my obligation for my character is that I owe the Hutts money, right? That the name and the narrative is debt, that I owe them money. So that's the name and the narrative there. The numerical value is, it starts off being based on the number of people that you have in your group. And there's a chart around page 39 of Edge of the Empire. And what it is you look at the number of people that you're playing with, and it tells you, we recommend that you have about 10 as your starting obligation. So my starting obligation is 10 because I owe Jabba the Hutt some money. Cool.
Is it specifically Jabba the Hutt, or were you just throwing it out there?
It's Jabba the Hutt's family. I don't know
Right on.
if you're hip on all of your Hutt cartels, but Jabba is actually part of the, I'm going to butcher this pronunciation.
Yeah, it's the worst.
It's the Silagic Hutt family. And so my starting obligation is 10. But when you are making your character, you can choose to increase your obligation up to a number equal to how much you started with. So if you start with 10, you cannot go over 20 obligation. And you can increase your obligation to get more money and more XP when you are creating your character. And it's one of those things of like, your character can be better right out the gate if you start by owing people favors and having a drug addiction, or having this really constrictive oath that you're bound to, and that kind of stuff. So it forces you to be like, you want stuff, you better put yourself into the story. And so it's fun because it's a mechanic that forces you to role play.
Mm-hmm.
Have any of us on this group done that? Oh wait.
That's a great question, Niffer. Why don't you go ahead and answer?
Yeah, I chose to do that. There were a couple different options for taking extra obligation. You can either take extra expertise, like different skills and stuff that you can buy, kind of like the skills and proficiencies in D&D, or you can take extra money, which helps you buy equipment and stuff. And so I chose to take extra credits, extra money. So I now have double the obligation that everyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
Until at
And
the
we
end of this
decided
session,
that-
we all
That's what I was
double it
gonna ask.
ourselves.
It's true.
I left it open. I haven't decided to take or not take obligation yet. I figured I'd see how session 0 went as to whether I started with 10 because Nifa's got daddy's money and she's paying the bills, or I don't know. If it was 15 XP that I could get, I would know exactly what I would do. But with only 10, I'm like,
Yeah.
Back to the rules explanation there. You can, like I said, you can increase it by the number that you start at. So if you have a larger group, everyone starts with less obligation, because one of the things that happens is at the beginning of each session, the DM rolls a D100 or percentile dice or whatever, and you take everyone's obligation and you put them in order of who has the most obligation all the way down, and whoever has the most starts at 0 and counts up. So Ellie has 20 obligation. So right now she is the numbers 1 through 21. And then the rest of us all have 10. So we would just be the next 10 numbers sequentially. And Stephen would roll a D100. And if he rolls the number that you are assigned to, like if he rolled an 11, that would be Ellie's character. And since the obligation roll targeted her, she has her strain threshold reduced by 2. And the rest of us have it reduced by 1 for the rest of that session. And it's important to note that it's reduced by 2, not you take 2 strain, because you can't just heal it. For the rest of the session, your cap is always lower.
Let's talk real super quick. What is strain? That's
So
super important.
there is kind of 2 different ways you can get hurt. I guess in the Star Wars RPG, and strain is one of them, but it's more like mental damage. So there's different things that you can actually spend strain for intentionally to do extra maneuvers, which are like the movement element.
Yeah. Keep in mind, it's not just mental; it's physical stuff too.
Yeah,
if you
it's
spend a
physical, too.
turn sprinting, it's your hardiness, your constitution. So both mentally and physically, how wore out are you, instead of are you bleeding out?
Yeah, it's that your strain leads to unconsciousness once you max out your strain. And the other thing that's interesting, so how we said your strain threshold lowers in the Star Wars role-playing game, instead of like in D&D where you have 39 hit points and you subtract from that and you subtract to that and you subtract to that, you have thresholds. So if your strain threshold is 13, the first time you take strain, you have 1 strain. You have 3 strain. You're always moving towards that threshold, and once you hit that threshold, strain in particular,
Bad things happen.
Not once you hit, once you exceed, and that's a very important thing that we need to watch, because I find myself messing that one up.
Yeah.
If you have 12 wound threshold and you have taken 12 damage, you're still up. When you take number 13, that's when you go down.
Got it. Well, because one way I was thinking about it is like wounds are your physical capacity, whereas strain is your sort of mental and emotional capacity. Like think of it like stress or something like that.
Yeah, stress is a good way to think about it, but there is physical stress too.
Right.
So
exactly.
so your wound threshold is literally your ability to be alive.
Yeah.
Whereas your strain threshold is where your body like it's, you fall unconscious at the end. So your body's like, nope, I'm done. This is it. This is it. You need to reset. I need a nap before we do anything else.
Yeah.
So
cool.
And I really like that they have both mechanics, because it's like, hey, if you know somebody's chasing you down across the galaxy, you're going to be a little bit stressed, which is why I really like that it has like the separate mechanic.
Well, and then there's things like it has like there's stun grenades, or you can set your weapons, certain weapons to stun, and you can specifically attack the strain threshold, which is sort of one of those, unlike D&D. Like D&D, you can say like, oh, this is non-lethal damage. Like if you're shooting someone with a blaster, you're shooting someone with a blaster unless you set it to stun. Like you can't be like, okay, blaster, like be a little nicer. Like
awesome. So with obligation, so this was sort of one of the things that I needed to to get more specific about, because I was looking at the oath for Zarko, and not the way I was reading it was like it can be sort of a personal code, And that's kind of how I was initially thinking of his obligation, is like he's like made this like self-declaration or this commitment to himself, but it's I probably haven't had a chance to kind of express how it manifests for him. So it's like he's that kind of dude that like he's so obsessed with finding a planet and exploring it and claiming it, or getting credit for like being the first or something, like being that explorer that found another habitable planet. Like he would do stupid things if he thought he was going to find out information that would lead him to, like, if he thought there was a data pad that had that critical information on it, and it was in a minefield, he would run through that minefield, not walk. He would run through that minefield like a dummy to grab that data. So it's sort of like,
you took ranks in medicine again.
I thought about making it an obsession, but I felt like obsession was more like drug addiction. That was how I was reading it. But I guess it could work either way.
Yeah, I think
it's one of those systems where you can do that kind of thing. An oath can be to an organization, or I mean, it's up to you. It's narrative. So
yeah, and so when I was reading your background, so the other three characters have pretty
shallow.
They're not shallow. They're really interesting backgrounds, but they're very easy to be like, okay,
cut
like
and dry.
Someone from Ellie's past that's part of the Black Sun organization shows up, and she's like, oh crap, like we got some problems, guys. Whereas your character, what's so interesting is it leads a lot of opportunities for me, like to be like at the beginning of a session to be like, oh, and I might like whisper this or do this off camera, or even like record with you prior to us actually all meeting, of being like, you find, like you said, a data pad with coordinates to somewhere, and just leave that at that.
Yeah, you should do things where you say, at some point tonight, you're going to see a data pad, and you're going to know it when I say it, but it's the one.
Yeah.
And that way you don't have to interject it so the rest of us know what's going on. Just all of a sudden,
that's a good
Zarko does something.
Yeah.
And we're all like,
so awesome.
And
that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah. The other thing too is like, again, where I said like he's sort of the survivalist. So like hypothetically, we have to make an emergency landing on some planet, uncharted or charted, whatever, and we definitely want to get the hell out, like outside of a city or where there's no civilization, where we won't be easily found. He's the kind of dude that would probably wander off and not even think of like, oh, I should tell the others I'm gonna go check this thing out. And then like they all wake up or look like, killed. Where the hell is Zarko?
Oh, no.
And he's out, and there's some crate dragon chasing him or something. So that was sort of the thought I had for why is this oath a problem?
Yeah, no, and I think it leads a lot open to you role playing that like deep seated desire to find something at the expense of those around you and at the expense of yourself. And I think that's gonna be really fun, and that's gonna throw some really interesting wrenches into.
Dang, now I'm jealous.
Oh, you don't worry. There's plenty of wrenches for all of you.
I actually have a couple of complications that I've been thinking up as well, because I mean, Ellie's character already had the debt thing going, and I wanted money from the Hutts just for my thing. But if I took that second obligation chunk, whether it be XP or money,
do it.
I've got some things where it's like, all right, well, we'll all just take the extra obligation, and there'll only be 10 numbers that he can roll at the beginning, or we're taking all the strain. But
do it.
I wanted to hear how bad Nick's character was going to be hated by every governmental force in the galaxy.
Well, I love the idea that Kane is maybe this like actually genuinely good guy, but just stuff has just like followed, like it's born under a bad sign or something, is not working out his way.
Wrong place, wrong time is his life.
I also considered being the jerk that's like, okay, I'm gonna listen to who everyone is hated by, but then I'm gonna be buddy with them. Like I'm actually a rebel spy, and at some point I find out that Kane is the guy that did that thing.
Oh god.
Like I've toyed
That
with
would be
those.
cool.
And
That would be
so-
cool.
Or like Black Sun offers to pay off the debt with the huts, no questions asked, if I provide information. You know, those kind of things.
Great.
I like it.
Well, the other thing we haven't mentioned about obligation is you can accrue it also.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Which is
You get rid of it and you can get more, like not just that character creation.
yeah. So for instance, if the group wanted to, I don't know, buy something for their ship, they wanted to upgrade their shields or something like that, but didn't have the credits to do that, they could take on obligation in theory.
Right, which is why it's
make a
important
deal.
to have not everyone pissed at you, because right now I'm indebted to the huts, but I can go to the huts and be like, hey, my ship's falling apart. I could really use 5,000 more credits. And then Steven can be like, all right, it's only 15 more obligation.
Yep. So it's my favorite mechanic in this game, honestly,
I think it's pretty cool.
especially for longer run stuff. Anyway, go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was just gonna say, let's dial in. Let's make some decisions. Like, so did my initial thought was that it's gonna happen sooner. Like Z and V met out in the Outer Rim, like when he was out there, because I just had this idea of him, like he would talk to anyone, like he just wanted to, if he saw you tinkering with a ship, he would literally just walk up and start talking to you. And I had this thought of like, he might even not even know how good that Vosk is, but he just knows he knows his name. Like, oh, hey, wasn't that Duros dude out there somewhere? And like, maybe we can look him up.
Do you have any specific planets that you went to on your sweet internship?
I don't know enough of the Outer Rim to have decided that, so I'd have to look.
Tatooine, Dantooine, Cantooine,
Right?
all of them.
All the weens.
All the ones.
Not something that we need to work out just a second, but we can just say there is a planet that we were both at. And, you know, it could have just been the port that you came into on that internship before heading out somewhere even further. And I could have just been there.
Yeah.
But we could have worked for the same place. I don't see why not. If you were the forklift driver, I could have been a truck driver or whatever.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
I can, like I said, I left mine open to kind of patch in as we needed. Once I changed it off of, I'm a human, I want to be if I can be aliens, I guess I'll be aliens.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great connection point, especially
That
with
works for me.
Zarko's like kind of personality of just like, hey, you're doing something. Tell me what you're doing. How do I?
Fascinated by everything,
Yeah.
because that's how I am.
Yeah.
So then we need to. So what about how do we know our muscle man?
Yeah, the kicker here is getting Kane in the group.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking about that a little bit, and I think that since I'm on the run from both the Rebels and the Empires, I am taking odd jobs or doing whatever I can to kind of survive in the meantime while trying to look for my my secret. And so I think I would have actually picked up the bounty contract from the Black Suns and would have gone to hunt Oh No down. And for some reason, I either, met, for some reason I got convinced not to turn her into the Black Sun.
I have
We
a thought.
offered you a space puppy.
Well, I have a thought about that is because I feel like your character's
one.
background and Ellie's background have some parallels in that, like, Ellie's like, my family's doing some like jacked up stuff, like not into that. And your character, Zane, was like, or Kane, excuse me. Kane was like the Empire, like, I'm not about that. Like, this is bad stuff. And so you pick up this contract, just assuming contracts are for bad people. And you're like, okay, like at least I can do something good. And then you meet this Ellie and you're like, oh, you're not a bad person.
Wait a minute.
That's better than what I had, because all I had was that scene from Firefly where Mal's on the loading ramp and Jane's right there, and they're like, "You don't
my
even have
God.
your own room."
Yeah, no, I really like that a lot. I think that
I do too.
I would have. I think it'd be cool if everyone's cool with it. If I actually would have managed to capture Oh No, and then on the way back, like as we're flying back, we kind of have this dialogue. By the time the other two manage to sort of catch up with us, as they go to get Oh No back, if we're at that point where I would assume that you guys have already, because you, Greg, were the pilot that got her out of there to begin with, right?
Muted.
You're muted.
Still muted.
Thank you. What I said was he doesn't necessarily think of himself as a pilot. It's just one of those skills that he has picked up along the way. I kind of have this thought of like Zarko and Voss just sort of like, okay, you're driving kind of, or something. Like neither one of them is like, I'm the pilot or something. I don't know, but
neither of us are the pilot specializations. But as we
Right.
get into spaceship stuff at some point in the game, we'll have a teaching moment about that. But the great thing about spaceships is everyone can have a job.
Mhm.
And if both of us are in the cockpit, you
do
can
the
have
job better.
pilot actions and co-pilot actions. So
Right.
there are things where if the pilot is focused on getting from point A to point B, the co-pilot can be plotting the hyperspace jump and all those Han Solo and Chewie things. Like while Han is getting away from TIE fighters, Chewie is flipping on the other half the switches and stuff like that. So it will work in tandem, while Kane is on the dorsal gun and Ono's in the kitchen trying to get 15 cans of dog food from rolling down the hallway.
The most important job.
definitely.
The other thought that to kind of piggyback off of that idea, Nick, is if the contract would take you and her to Socorro, is where you would have turned it in. Then and
Because there's Black Sun on Socorro.
yeah,
That's true.
because there's everybody on Socorro. So that's this.
So he could have.
and
So
that's a pretty neutral-
possibly he caught the two of us, right?
Yeah, so
Like, I was just there
Don't have
and-
your escape route from Coruscant be Socorro. Have your escape route be somewhere else.
That works.
Kane catches you and brings you to the closest Black Sun
Well,
outpost.
maybe we
which
went to
is-
Corellia. What were you on Corellia or no? This was after that. This is way
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So where
Let's get somewhere near Socorro so that Socorro
Yeah.
was the closest bounty turn-in point, because he doesn't want to have to ship her all the way back to core systems to turn her in.
Totally.
If he can just run down to the closest 7-Eleven, meet a Black Sun guy outside of it, and throw it in her
And
trunk.
hand over the hostage. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how things go.
And when y'all come to Socorro, Zarko can have that moment of, well, now that we're here, I at least know a guy, because Zarko and Voss could have met on Socorro before, and you knew that I was here.
that works.
Yeah,
I like
think
that a lot.
that ties everything in really in a way that makes sense. And I think it could particularly, I feel like Kane and Ellie would have had time to have the conversation, obviously, that Kane's like, oh, maybe you're not so bad.
Feels
But
bad,
I think
man.
But I think it would be really interesting too. Like Zarko and Kane might have some beef, like particularly Zarko. I could see just like not being cool with Kane. Like, even though eventually he lets Ellie go, like still being like, wait a second, like,
We can have this
Yeah,
cool
well, yeah,
thing
'cause,
too,
I mean,
where
I
all of
could-
y'all show up and you've decided that you're gonna like work together. You've convinced Kane not to turn you in, and you're like, well, since we're here and the ship's beat up or whatever that we figure out, y'all come get Vosk. And Vosk isn't aware of this weird triangle that y'all have created yet. He's just here to fix the ship.
Right.
nothing like
And
a good
next thing you know-
bounty triangle.
Yeah, and then it's like, Zarko,
Well-
what the heck have you got me into?
Yeah.
Like,
And that's like the question for all of us. We're all like looking at each other, each of
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
going like, "What
So-
the hell did you just get me?"
Which
into?"
actually, like,
Zarko's like, what the
we
heck?
need to run
Ellie?
away. And Zarko's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I know a planet."
yeah. But also Zarko's like, wait, why are people like hunting you. Like
Yeah.
what's that deal about?
I'm
So I
related
would-
to them.
I could
That's
see
all.
that. I could see
It's
that.
Just dad.
right.
It's just dad problems.
Story of my life.
I could see that perhaps what happened would be like so Kane probably Zarko has a little bit of ability to defend himself, right? So because he has to be able to survive against just about anything. And so probably when Kane tried to capture Ellie, maybe Zarko was like doing the stupid chivalrous thing or something, or even if he was trying to protect
That's
his
what I
own
need.
skin, right? And then just Kane just like easily overwhelmed Zarko, right? And so there's this kind of sore spot of like you bested him, but then on top of that, maybe you knocked Zarko unconscious and was like out of it for like a day while you and she like, so now you two have all this time to sort of interact and so when Zarko kind of comes around, there's this whole new dialogue of like, oh, we're friends now, and he's just like, yeah, no, what? No
Yeah.
way. I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good. And I think it really fits the like just kind of the whole edge of the Empire feel, right? Of even this group that's working together is everyone's like kind of giving each other the shifty eyes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whose side is he really on?
Yeah.
Is it the Empire or the Rebels, or are you out for yourself?
Yep.
Because obviously you have a thing about alliances here.
Yeah.
We need
Yeah,
to
that's
figure out
great.
a ship.
That's what
Not
I was
to-
just
not
about to
to
say.
interject with
Yeah.
another story.
No, I thought we were done. Thought we nailed
We
it.
figured it out.
but I'm asking if that's the plan, because
Yes.
remember that the
Deal.
XS stock freighter is technically 4,000 years old. So we need to figure out whether it is somehow one that has survived for 4,000 freaking years, or whether like somebody did things
Retrofit.
where they had a YT 1300 or a YT 1000 that they're like, I'm going to add a body mod on this to make it look like the pictures of what the XS stock freighters used to look like. And so we're like one of those people who got a 5th gen Camaro, but then modified it to look like a 2nd gen Trans Am,
That
like
was
the
awesome.
Bandit car. So are we going with the stock freighter?
I'm
I
gonna,
dig it.
I'm gonna
I
jump
can-
in
I-
and say I think it's a really cool idea for it to be like from Ellie's family's like classic car
Collection,
garage.
yeah. I stole the T-bird. That's what happened.
Yeah. But like
Okay,
it's
so-
just
So we
for
are
show.
going with she didn't go to the garage. She went to like the Jay Leno garage and got like a Model A. And Zarko was like, this is what we're taking. And then got out here and was like, hang on, I know a guy. Cause like, we're going to need
We're
some
gonna
help
need the help.
Well,
to
at
get
the
this
same
thing in
time,
the
he
air.
probably would have freaking fallen in love with it too, because he has this sensibility about like ancient stuff and old tech, and probably was like, oh hell yes,
Yeah.
we're riding in style, but damn, do we need to fix some stuff?
Well, and I imagine it looking like super nice on the outside. Like it's pretty.
Yeah, pristine,
But-
but it runs like crap.
But like like nobody's touched the engine except to like make sure like it has to work well enough to like get it serviced every once in a while. That's what I'm assuming happens to starships.
Sure.
Sure. We'll go with that. But like it's not like he's out there driving it or it's literally just like I have this thing. Like
Yeah, it's a
Because like
showcase,
selfies in
totally.
front of it,
Yeah.
and put it on a trailer and get it to a car show, but like it's not going to make a trip
Mhm.
across state lines on
exactly.
its own. For a bit of rules there for anyone that's new to the system, your group can start with a ship depending on what kind of story you're telling, and there is the caveat that it has to cost less than 120,000 credits. RGMs, plural, since we have multiple, we're cool enough to be like, we'll let you go slightly over that number, but it's going to come at the cost of there's something janky with your ship. It's going to be the Millennium Falcon where the hyperdrive acts a little wonky and the AI is a little temperamental or something. I think we are taking either the YT 1300 or YT 2000 stat blocks and just mapping them onto the XS stock freighter, which is from the Old Republic era, hence being 4,000 years old.
It's a pretty cool ship.
So
It's
which are we gonna use? 13 or?
Where's the
I would have to look at the weapon loadouts and stuff. I think the YT2000 is technically an upgrade across the board on most things over the 1300, in that it's also more expensive. But I did not actually look at the weapons.
No, you're right. It's marginally better. It has like 5 more payload, and it had like a tiny bit more of the body or the hull or whatever it's called. It was very marginally better.
Yeah, you have your hull trauma and you have your system strain, because starships, like characters, have 2 sets of
damage to take.
hit points or thresholds. You can have your ship shot to death, but you can also strain it out too much by doing too tight turns and punching it too fast too often, and doing crazy Ivans.
God, where is this starting ship? I'm trying to flip through this.
What are you looking for?
The starting ship stuff. I was gonna look through it.
Like specifically the stats of the YT1300?
Yeah.
I can look it up on the internet.
Okay, so the 2000. Here, I got it right in front of me. The 2000. The silhouette is 4. I'm not sure what that means. Is that like the size of the ship?
Yeah. So silhouette is essentially your size, how easy you are to hit. So TIE fighters can hit carriers easier than carriers can hit TIE fighters.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. So the YT2000 has got a silhouette of 4, speed 3, handling 0. The defense, I don't know what these mean, but it's FPSA is 1F and 1A. Armor 3.
Forward, aft, starboard, port.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. That makes perfect sense. So 1 in the forward and 1 in the aft. Armor is 3. HT, which is hull
trauma.
Yeah, is 24. And the SS threshold is 14.
System strain.
So it's got
are you looking at the I have different numbers than what you're saying.
Oh, well then I'm just using the one that's online. So we'll use the book. Tell us the book, what the book says.
So silhouette's the same, speeds 3, handling for the 2400 is 0, handling for the 1300 is -1. The defense is just 4 and aft is 1 on both of them. Armor 3 for the YT 1300, armor 4 for the 24.
Is it the 24 or the 2000?
Oh,
because the 24 is like way more expensive.
It's 13. Yeah, the 24 is 1300 credits. So what I was gonna say, sorry, I might have missed.
130,000.
Yeah, excuse me. Is if you were interested in the YT 2400, we'd need to
up obligation
stats or up obligation.
Well, we can't really up the obligation that much. That's like more than we get. 10,000 is a game.
Give it all to me because it's my ship, and I'll just always take all the strain.
YT2000 was the ship that I threw out there. Which
the 2000. Yeah,
it fits under the 120 bubble. I believe it's in the Far Horizons book. I can go look. I don't want to detract too much from progress to go look at ship stats, but I was just saying, are we going with the Jay Leno car story? And if so,
I love that.
You're cool with that?
I think it's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we can figure out the mechanics,
the actual mechanics of it.
We don't need to have that conversation.
But anything under 120,
now, one thing to think about that though, this is legit, is like that is going to be easily marked. Like everyone's going to be able to know as soon as we get into a spaceport, they're going to know we're there.
That's true. Yes, that's an
argument against doing it that way.
But when we're super awesome and we're like, hey, you haven't heard of the Second Sunrise, and we're starting our new bounty hunting gig, and we want a name for ourselves, we're not just 4 jerks who showed up in yet another YT 1300.
True that. True that.
how many people are going to be talking about those 4 jerks that showed up in a 4,000-year-old spaceship and then caused a ruckus? You know, that thing that happened that one time with the 76 Nerfs and the space puppy?
Yeah.
I'm all for the old ship.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll figure out sideboard, and we will announce via Twitter or at the beginning of episode 1 of this show which actual ship stats. It's going to be something that makes sense. We're not going to take an X-wing stats and map it onto this thing. It'll be one of the Corellia systems light freighters, like a 1300 or a 1000 or a 2000. So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, since we
let
can
you know.
afford the 2000, that seems like the most sensible one.
you get the 2000 without having to look at the front of it and its weird, stupid fuselage cockpit that makes no sense for a spaceship because that
Yeah.
thing would rip off every time you broke ammo.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Somebody has some thoughts.
Back before we decided stock freighter, I was just going to get a 2000, but asked to connect the mandibles to the cockpit so that it didn't have those stupid gaps.
And sorry, I need to step away real quick. I'm having some at-home kid issues, so I'll be
Okay.
right back.
Understood.
Let's take a 10-minute bathroom break. 'Cause
Perfect.
It's been like an hour and 2 hours.
I like that. I like that plan.
Awesome.
BRB, y'all. 10 minutes. Hey, so we're doing that extra 400 credits. Did y'all already buy gear?
That's fair.
More or less.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. so
I'm
you-
actually like
Thank you for
100
getting us
short.
back on topic. Sorry, all viewers.
It'll all be cropped out, so only the people who were putting up with us live had to deal with that. But I was going to get us
Thank
slightly
you,
on
live
topic
viewers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
when,
gear.
love you.
when
live
Steven comes
viewers.
back, because
Back on topic.
I need to get upstairs at some point, and so like
Yep.
getting the intro hook from Steven is the last real thing that I need. So I'm going to discuss weapon type things, and so much so that I grabbed the book off the shelf because it's for faster flipping.
It's true.
What are y'all looking at in terms of weapon and armor? Especially Nick, since he's both our weapon and our armor.
I'm also open that. I wanted to. So I was actually thinking, due to my backstory, that I was going to take obligation just because it seemed to make sense story wise. So I was kind of looking at some of the like weapon modifications, but nothing specifically. But I was thinking about spending money making my gun super cool.
Well, are you taking the 10 obligation for 1,000?
Yes. What? So we start. Remind me again. So you said we start with 4.
For credits obligation for what?
The credits. Sorry,
It's
5
Start with
We
500
start with
credits.
500.
plus
You
the
get
400.
400 from
400
her,
from me. But
and
if y'all
then-
are taking your own, I want my money back. No.
This is where we diverge from the rules in Inner Homebrew, because the starting characters should only ever start with 1,500 credits if they take full obligation and full credits. Our GM is nice enough to let Niffer spread the money around, so the character who's probably not buying a whole bunch of armor and guns anyways gets to spread those credits out across and lets the shooter people be able to actually afford their weapons, because you'll learn that unlike D&D, it's actually pretty tough to start with too much stuff in this game.
Yeah, it
if
looked
you
like
if you
that.
go for like good stuff, you start with like a leather jacket and a blaster pistol and a comlink.
That's
but
kind of
so
where I'm at.
we'll start with Kane. You're starting at 1,900 monies.
So is it 5 or 10 obligation
He can
for
take
an extra 1,000?
it would be 10, I feel like.
Hang on.
Because what
I
I'm looking at says
swear-
it's 5 obligation for 1,000 credits.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, because
And
it's
what's-
10 obligation for 2,500 which
Oh,
is
that's
what
what
I
it
took.
is. Yeah.
I was
10 for how much?
10 for
2,500.
2,500.
Oh my god, how much for a jetpack? Hold on.
Ah.
I
If
can
you're
let you-
taking obligation just for a jetpack, 1, I'm
I'm
jealous.
not.
2,
I want my money back.
Give me my 400.
I found the jetpack, and it is 4,500.
Damn it.
We'll get
That's on the
there.
wish list.
We'll get
along
there.
with
It's
my
on the. We have a
cybernetic
wish
arm.
list already.
All right.
I want a robot arm. It's on my wish list.
We were talking equipment because I came back and they were talking AV stuff because apparently Niffer's been using her wrong microphone this whole time. So that's a thing we should work out before session 1.
Nice.
I'm sorry.
Hence the cough, the infamous cough.
I'm sorry.
I was letting the group know that the wife's getting tired and the baby's getting restless. And so I would like to do the, hey, here's the hook. And at that point, I can high five and leave. And if y'all want to keep talking, I welcome y'all to do so. But I need the hook from the DM, and then I'm going to skedaddle.
Okay. Well, let me pull up what I wrote.
Okay. So
Oh, this is exciting.
we're going to officially be back. Gregory, I just want to let you know that you spend the greater part of this session like in the lower third of your frame. So either angle your camera down or sit up straight there, bud, because we get solid 45 seconds of just your forehead sometimes.
Thank you.
Which is
No,
it's a
I
lovely
tend to
forehead.
look because it's high and I'm looking at stuff. I'm sorry.
It's high. Mine is on a tripod mounted above a 40-inch TV.
Fair enough.
So
I'll aim it better.
All right.
yeah, we're officially back from our break now, despite the fact that we have been for several minutes. But now our illustrious GM is going to tell us what all of these crazy characters have got themselves into on this planet, and we're going to fill in the gap between all of us meeting and taking whatever job he's about to tell us. So go.
Okay. So, you are on Socorro, an arid desert planet in the Outer Rim. Socorro is a harsh volcanic world that has become the center for black market trade and technology, in particularly high-end illegal ship modifications. The various criminal organizations such as the Hutts, the Pikes, and the Black Sun all have operations on the planet and live in an uneasy truce. You are the crew of the Second Sunrise, a small enterprising band of individuals, all with your own motivations and obligations to the galaxy, that has found each other useful. You all have performed various odd jobs, made some credits here and there, and are at least surviving the harsh life out here on the edge of the Empire. Recently, however, the jobs have been harder to come by. The Empire has been tightening its grip on the galaxy in retaliation to the destruction of the Death Star. The criminal organizations are more and more careful with who they hire, assuming anyone is from a rival organization or an undercover Imperial spy working towards the organization's destruction. So here you are in Feartalk's Lounge. You're one of your favorite hangouts in Socorro when you're off looking for jobs. The four of you are seated around a booth. There's just a few people scattered throughout the bar. Feartalk's actually a Wookiee who runs this little cantina. She is older. Her fur is graying. And she's back kind of across the way. And as you all are kind of sitting there discussing amongst yourselves various odd leads and jobs, through the door bursts in a woman, head's mostly covered. She runs and sits down and says, be still. Nothing's happening. It's fine. Just be still. And immediately afterwards, walking through the door, are 3 humans, and particularly Vosk. You recognize them as Hut bounty hunters. They look at you. One of them pulls out a blaster, and that's where we're going to start the story next time.
Dang.
The lady who sat down at our table, what species is she? And do I recognize her or anything that she's wearing and whatnot?
I will say, you know what? For the sake of this, let's do a roll.
What would you like me to roll?
Nice.
I don't remember the skills.
Like a street
What's the is it the equivalent of perception?
There is literally perception.
Yeah.
Perfect. Roll a perception and I'll just see what you can do. And let me set the difficulty.
This is the first official roll of Tabletop Galaxy.
Ah,
And if you are ready, I will click the button.
I think it's set.
don't mix it up.
Remember to click out of the box so that it accepts it.
Okay.
3 successes.
Wow.
Okay. So, as you look over at this female figure who sat down, you notice a few spikes coming out of your head, and you recognize that she is a Zabrok. And she also has a small necklace. And as you look at that, you recognize a little rebellion, symbol of the rebellion around her neck.
I need to look up whether there's an actual name for that symbol. I know what you mean, but I don't know if it's called like the rebel crest or what.
But that's what you see. And you will all have to figure out what's going on next time on Tabletop Galaxy.
Hot start.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm using my last name already. Oh no.
All right. So that's the hook.
Oh boy.
Okay. Like I said, the group of y'all are welcome to keep chatting and stuff if you want. I'll leave the stream going so that it records and that people can hang out. I just got to go, but up to y'all.
Yeah, I probably have to go do some dad stuff as well.
Wikipedia says it is the Alliance Starbird, also known as the Phoenix.
All right.
Okay, so you see the Phoenix.
Thanks,
Got it.
Wikipedia.
All right. Well, we're going to wind down here. I have some audio video feedback to give folks. I'm going to play around with my overlay a little bit before next time. I'm going to do a little bit of editing. I'm getting more experience with Resolve and music and all that cool stuff. So this was a very bare bones, like, let's test stuff. Yeah. I feel like we learned some good stuff about the group, about the players, about the setting, about the system, and I'm looking forward to stumbling into it full speed next time, especially now I have more ideas for my tweaks to my backstory, especially if this is a rebel agent. I feel like I can get more wrenches in those spokes.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a really, really fun group. So
Only
looking
you
forward
would
to
want
it.
to complicate things further, by the way. Thanks.
I got to spend that extra obligation on something. If he's going to try to buy a jetpack as soon as possible, I got to get there before he does.
I feel like I really missed something.
3 more space puppies.
Mhm.
With jetpacks.
It's like tribbles at this point. Like,
Yeah.
you can't count them.
Jetpack Space Puppies is something I'm definitely interested in.
That's the name of our first. That's our first album.
That sure sounds like a band name.
Yeah, that's our
That's
album.
going to be the band. That band is going to appear in every cantina you guys ever show up in.
Yes.
I'm into
Here,
that.
That's going to be the NPC's band, the
Yep.
one that we're creating on Twitter.
Yeah.
They're going to be the front man of the space
love
jetpack space puppies.
Yep.
All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and shut down here. Thanks everyone who hung out, and thanks everyone who's listening. We will be back in 2 weeks at 6 o'clock PDT if time change is still a thing. I forget. We'll be back at 6 Pacific time, whether it's daylight savings time or not. So good night, everybody.
Yeah. Good night. Space stuff.